Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, enabled by digital technologies. Our meeting date is Monday, November. That's not good. Our meeting date is Monday, May 2nd, 2022. Maybe it's just, it feels like it's been a long winter. I don't know. I'm Mayor. This meeting to order. I asked the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7 p.m. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after the meeting as an archived video. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Welcome to those who are joining us via the YouTube channels. Welcome to councillors, staff, and delegations who will participate in this meeting. I am receiving a notification from Councillor Anstead as we're starting here, indicating that he is having some technical issues. So Simon is on duty tonight. Simon, if you're paying attention, help Councillor Anstead is the message. At this time, I invite your decorum over the course of the coming meeting. We have no attendance regrets tonight, although I guess Councillor Ansted's struggling with technology at this point. Let us move to item 2.1 on our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. For the benefit of those unfamiliar with our council practices, provincial legislation requires councillors with the potential pecuniary or financial interest in any item at the council table to declare this interest and to remove her or himself from discussions and voting on the item. In accordance with recommended protocol at this time, I invite all councillors with a perceived pecuniary interest, including any who have so declared in writing, I don't think we have any of those tonight, to share in public session and to submit documentation to this effect in writing to the clerk. Councillors are further reminded that should a potential conflict arise during the meeting, they may so declare and act at any point in the meeting. As I said, the clerk has advised we don't have any notices about this evening. Okay, so we just received an email from Councillor Andreessen who intends to make a declaration. Councillor Andreessen, tonight the floor is yours for this declaration.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Kasenberg. I see on our agenda that we have correspondence from the Listowel Ag Society regarding the annual fair parade. So I'll be declaring any kind of pecuniary interest regarding matters with that correspondence. And that's on 7.1 and also on the confirmatory bylaw for 13.1. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Andreessen. Any others wishing to make a declaration tonight? Okay, so we're not seeing that at this point. Let's explain the processes. Tonight, I'll be systematically trying to seek consent from various councillors as movers and seconders of the various resolutions and bylaws that they put before us. I will do this to some degree alphabetically. Should a councillor not wish to respond to the request, they may say so, and I will move to the next name on the list. Regarding speaking to our business councillors tonight, will identify themselves through our conferencing technologies chat function. The clerk is assisting me tonight in maintaining the speaking order from that source. Councillors are allowed on their turn to deliver a primary question or comment and may make one supplemental without intervention from me. We will follow speaking order carefully, and any councillor wishing to have a say beyond those first two will have to indicate again and go to the bottom of the list. This is a normal process consistent with Robert's Rules of Order. Councillors, you're asked to generally maintain a mute state in the web conference until I recognize your right to the floor. If, when I do so, recognize I don't hear you because you are muted or having some technical difficulty, I will let you know. Should technical difficulty be the cause, support will be coming your way from our IT team. Simon is on tonight, and I will, after a reasonable pause, call on our next speaker, coming back to you when you're next available. Should any of your votes not show up in eScribe, I will call on you when things seem stalled to register a manual vote. At that time, take yourself off mute, answer yes or no on the motion, and then return to mute. It means we can open the book here and get busy. Regarding item 2.2 of our agenda, I have a motion before me for the adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting that reads as follows, that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Why don't we begin with Councillor Behrens tonight? Councillor Behrens, welcome. And will you serve as our mover?
Yes, I will make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Duncan, welcome tonight. Will you serve as our seconder on this one?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried with the exception of Councillor Anstead. So let's check in with Councillor Anstead. Councillor Anstead, what say you? Are you with us? Do we see him on? Okay. Okay, so there's a little bit of technology trouble there. Councillor Anstead, one last time before we declare you absent for this vote. Okay, I'm going to call this carried, and we'll note that Councillor Anstead was absent on this vote. That brings us to agenda item number 3, the so-called consent agenda. These items are placed on our agenda because they are believed to be non-contentious, yet they require council's recognition and action. Grouping them can expedite our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, and/or individual action may do so. There are 9 items tonight on the consent agenda, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, do any of you have a desire to extract any of these items for further discussion or action? To do so, let us know through the text chat function. Okay, Councillor Rothwell, I believe. Let's start with you.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, and rest of council. Good evening. I would just like to speak to the Blue Water Recycling Association's report on the consent agenda, please. Thank you.
Okay, noted. Are there any other questions or comments about the items in the consent agenda before we turn to Councillor Rothwell? I think in terms of expediting our business, I'll just let him have the floor and see where that goes. Councillor Rothwell, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. And I just want to give a brief comment regarding the information that was provided by the Blue Water Recycling Association and our annual meeting that was held recently. Again, this was a virtual annual meeting for the Blue Water Recycling Association, of which North Perth is a part of. And as your representative, I was part of that ongoing meeting. The challenges that are talked about in the and opportunities that are talked about in the report are significant, and especially the extended producer responsibility program, which the province has solidified in its decision in June of this year. And again, we're scheduled to transition over to the producer responsibility in 2024. So there are some great opportunities we've had as the Recycling Association on your behalf. The amounts that we received for recyclables have been at incredibly high rates, the highest ever. However, we have had opportunities or challenges associated with some staffing issues, mostly COVID related, or many are COVID related. And again, some is as a direct result of the lack of people that are available to conduct the work that's required for some of our positions. Nevertheless, we have moved forward on that basis, and the balance sheet shows that we are in a good position as the association and look forward to changes. And again, the association report does underscore the importance of all our staff for the Recycling Association, working in concert with each of our member municipalities. And if there's any questions that council or staff have, I'll be glad to address them. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rothwell, for amplifying on that report. Council, any questions or comments for Councillor Rothwell's attention as our representative on BRA? Okay, not seeing any other queries before we consider a resolution on the consent agenda. All right, not seeing any at this time, so I have a resolution for consideration related to item 3.0 on our agenda, that consent items 3.1 to 3.9 be received for information and the minutes of the April 25th, 2022 regular council meeting be adopted. Deputy Mayor Kellum, welcome tonight. Will you serve as mover there?
Good evening, Mayor Todd and everyone else on council. Yes, I will make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Johnston, welcome tonight. Will you be our seconder here?
Yes, I would certainly second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And we're not seeing Councillor Anstead. Councillor Anstead, can you hear my voice at this point? One more time for Councillor Anstead. Okay, so we don't think he's in the meeting according to the clerk, so we'll mark him absent from this and call this carried. Thank you. Let's move on to agenda item number 4. We have no public meetings for this evening's meeting. Further, we have no delegations that have asked for an audience with council this evening. That allows us to move down the road to agenda item 5, reports from key departments and staff. For item 5.1.1, the CAO brings forward a report pertaining to the interaction of this municipality with projects considered and or proposed by the Independent Electricity System Operator, IESO. IESO is undertaking a long-term procurement process to support the future electricity needs of the province, and the approach may include input of this council on behalf of the corporation. I call on CAO Snell to share his report and recommendation. Welcome tonight, Mr. Snell. Welcome back from vacation.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. As the Mayor suggested, the Independent Electricity System Operator manages the province's power system so that Ontarians receive power when and where they need it. They have reached out seeking a consultation process with municipalities on their long-term requests for qualifications, followed by the long-term request for proposals, LT1 RFP. The IESO's procurement process does include mandatory engagement requirements at present, including the requirement for the need for a public meeting and interactions with local municipal councils. However, at this time, it does not involve the requirement for municipal approval on projects. So at this time, staff is recommending that the report be received for information and that all new IESO projects require local municipal approval, followed by a resolution passed by council. I did include both the slide decks provided by the IESO and certainly can answer any questions that council may have. It is interesting to note that one of the slide deck 6 of the first package, it is important to notice that our part of Ontario is not one of the specified or high location project areas. So most of the project areas are in the immediate or south or the immediate eastern Ontario. It does not mean that we won't have projects, but those other areas are a higher priority for the present RFP process. I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thanks, Mr. Snell. Council, any questions or first comments on this matter? So just checking in on our authority here, CAO Snell, we have the authority to initiate a resolution to this effect that will mandate that ISO interacts with us.
Yes, so IESO is asking for us to provide feedback prior to May 10th for them to finalize their process. And So they have provided a feedback form. Certainly the staff recommendation would like to indicate that we would require local municipal approval for all IESO projects going forward.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or first comments? I have a resolution for our consideration as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth receive this report for information and that staff be directed to complete the feedback form indicating that all new IESO projects require local municipal approval by resolution passed by council. Can I call on Councillor Richardson to be our mover and welcome, sir?
And welcome to all, and I would happily move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Rothwell, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much. Any discussion made on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Okay, so Councillor Anstead remains absent and we'll mark him as such and call that carried. Thank you. As item 5.1.2, the municipality has been approached by the Listowel Kinsman Club, current lessees of lands owned by the municipality on which the Kin Station is situated, for the purposes of paving with asphalt a parking area. Again, I'll call on CAO Snell for comments about this item. Mr. Snell.
Thank you again. As council is aware, we recently signed a lease extension with the Kinsmen on July 6th of 2020 for the Kin Station. As part of that lease agreement, the local Kinsmen are required to seek written consent prior to any upgrades, undertakings, or improvements to the premise or building. They have recently sent us correspondence on April 21st indicating they have plans to pave the parking lot at Kin Station. The request is attached for council's reference. The proposed lot would be roughly 1,022 meters squared and primarily be the gravel portion in front of the Kin Station and to the east side connecting to Binning Street. At this time, staff have no concerns with the approved project. Certainly, as council is aware, the lease does address the possible extension of Binning Street. However, at this time, there are no capital projects planned for that extension. And so at this time, staff are content that the paved parking lot can proceed. Certainly happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thanks, CAO Snell. Council, questions or first comments on this matter? Okay, we're not seeing any, so I have a resolution for our consideration that reads as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth consents to the Kinsman paving project as outlined in their April 21st request and drawing for the Kin Station parking lot as per the terms and conditions of the lease dated July 6, 2020. Councillor Seiler, welcome tonight. Will you be our mover on this one?
Yes, I'll move that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andreessen, welcome tonight. Will you be our seconder here?
Yes, I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Okay. So we believe that Councillor Anstead is logged back in. Councillor Anstead, can you hear my voice at this point?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, there we are. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we're just voting on the Kin Station parking lot process. Do you have extra vote here?
Yeah, I just got into the meeting. I haven't even got eScribe opens, but in reviewing this earlier, I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. So we'll call this carried then with Councillor Anstead now setting himself up. Councillor Anstead. All right. Let's move on. Item 5.2, reports from the Clerk's Department. For item 5.2.1, staff is recommending approval of an application for part lot control by Euro Custom Homes addressing ability to create individual lots of record in a housing development on street. Approval of this recommendation would forward this item to Perth County Council for its approval. I believe we have County of Perth planner Susanna Reed with us. Thank you to explain the request in this matter. Ms. Reed, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
No.
we can, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. As the mayor has said, this is an application for an exemption from part lot control, and I have a few slides just to show you the application. So this is the location of the property. It's on Hutton Street West, and here is the development. So it's an 8-unit townhouse development, and the
Ms. Reed,
yes?
Reed, we're not seeing your shared screen.
Okay, that's the first time I've never asked if you can't see my screen.
Try one.
Okay,
If not, then perhaps
you can't see it.
at this point we are not seeing it. Brady Bunch view at this point.
Okay, I'll try one more time.
There we
See
go.
it? All right, great. Okay, so this is the red star shows the lake location of the subject property. The application is for an exemption from part lot control. So there is a townhouse development that has been built on this site. It's an 8-unit townhouse development, and the slide on the screen now shows the footprint of the development. So as I said, this has been built, and here are photos of the site that I took on April 20th. The application then is to apply to lift part lot control, so that lot lines can be put down the common walls between each one of those units registered on title. I've reviewed the application against the zoning bylaw, and it complies with the zoning. Of note, there have been 2 minor variances on the development. Also, my apologies, I note that the report missed one word. So in the first paragraph in the planning comments where it says the R5-14 zone permits, it should read townhouses there. So townhouses are a permitted use in the R5-14 zone. The application conforms with the lots all conform with the zoning bylaw. As well as subdividing the townhouse properties into 8 units, there's also an application for an easement over the rear lot lines at the back of each one of the lots, and that's to allow the interior units access to the rear lots for cutting the grass or anything like that. And the planning department is recommending that that council approve the application by Euro Custom Homes for the exemption of part lot control on the lands described as Lot 71 of Plan 44M-72 on Hutton Street West in the Listowel ward of the municipality of North Perth. And if council decides to adopt the bylaw, it will be forwarded to the County of Perth for approval. I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. First comments from council. Okay, I'm not seeing any. I have 2 resolutions. The second, let's deal with the first here. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the application by Euro Custom Homes for the exemption of part lot control lands described as Lot 71 of Plan 44M72 and 44M72 Hutton Street West in the Listowel ward, municipality of North Perth. Are we supposed to see 2 of those in the resolution? It seems like we have the same thing back to back on the form that I have.
I didn't quite hear that question if it was directed to me.
Sorry, Ms. Reed, in the resolution that we have, for some reason, the repetition 44M72.
Yes, that I noticed that as well. Yes, it only needs to read Plan 44MZ2 once.
Let me try it again. Thank you. I appreciate that. The Council of the Municipality approved the application by Euro Custom Homes for the exemption of part lot control on lands described as Lot 71 of Plan 44M72, Street West in the Listowel ward, municipality of North Perth. If the proposed bylaw is adopted, it shall be forwarded to the County of Perth for approval. Councillor Anstett, will you serve? Welcome. Sorry for the technical challenges you faced. Will you serve as our mover for this one?
Thanks, Mayor Kasenberg. Yes, I would move that motion. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Councillor Barnes, will you serve as our seconder here?
Yes, I will second that motion. Thank you.
Very good. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. And next up, we have the bylaw, which is as follows: that bylaw number 67-2, as amended, being a bylaw to amend it to exempt from part lot control, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Duncan, will you serve as our mover for this one?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you be our seconder here?
Yes, I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debates? We're not seeing any, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Ms. Reed, always a pleasure to have you at our table. We wish you good night. We'll move on to item 5.3, reports from the Programs Department. As item 5.3.1, the Programs Department brings forward a brief report about the return of the Teddy Bear Play Day on June 18th, 2022. My favorite stuffed animal, Taz, is very much looking forward to joining the festivities. I'll call on Amy Gangle, our manager of programs, for insight about the event and to request that council close certain streets in an effort to support. Ms. Gangle, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg and members of council. Good evening. Yes, the program services area is very pleased to say we are returning our Teddy Bear Play Day to the Listowel Memorial Park. Early on in recreation, staff have been working very hard to make this event happen. It is happening this year on June 18th, and this is a request for closure of roads during this event just for the safety of the children and the families, specifically the roads that actually fall within the park itself. So Derry Street and Royal Street are the two that we have. The window that we're asking for, 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., just allows us time to set up for the event and close and clean up before we reopen those roads. If for some reason we have finished cleaning up sooner, we would open those roads sooner, but we, just to be on the safe side, want to extend that window. Council has any questions? Happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Gangle. Let's turn to council. Questions or first comments here? Have you planned your stuffed animal that you're bringing along? I'm trusting people should get on with that. All right. I have a resolution then for consideration that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the request regarding the annual Teddy Bear Play Day event on Saturday, June 18th, 2022 as follows. 1, close Royal Street from Elizabeth Street to Davidson Avenue from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And 2, close Derry Street, Elwood Smith Lane from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And further, that North Perth Public Works, Fire, OPP, and Perth County EMS will be advised of this event. Councillor Johnston, will you serve as our mover here?
Yes, I would move that.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson, will you be our seconder here?
I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Not seeing any, so let's have that vote. We're missing one. And we've got everybody accounted for. Thank you. That's carried. Deputy Mayor Kellum, I'm going to assume that there might be a stuffed animal toy that has something to do with the Maple Leafs that might show up at this event.
I believe there will be.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. Let's move on to item 5.4, reports from our facilities department. Tonight we have no reports from that group, so they are busy at work, of course, as always. Next to our finance department, item 5.5. We don't have any reports from that department either, but they continue to make things happened in the organization. Next up is 5.6, reports from our Environmental Services Department. Again, we have no reports from this department this evening, but we know they keep us clean and in water and many other good things, and we thank them for their service. Let's turn to item 5.7, reports from our Manager of Operations. We have a few here. First, for item 5.7.1, things are beginning to take shape with the planning of a renovation of Highway 23 through Atwood. This includes changes in the core of Atwood that propose a change in traffic lane allocation with accompanying changes in sidewalks, snowboards, and street aesthetic. I'm going to invite Lyndon Couch, our Manager of Operations, to address this report and the recommendations which are proposed to the province, noting that we have available to us an expert from our engineering firm, Mr. Alexander, who can answer council's further questions should you have any, with council's consent. Mr. Couch, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg, members of council. We've met with a new team of the MTO earlier this year on 2 occasions to discuss design concepts for the upgrades to the Atwood corridor, Highway 23. There are some new things to note. We're looking at changes in 3 sections, and I color-coded them in the report simply to show the blue area as looking the same as it does today, however, with boulevards, more pronounced sidewalk, and easier access into driveways. Not too much change in that zone other than there will be a required, due to the development in the area, turning lane that comes down off of or through Highway 23, a left-hand turning lane that continues on through the intersection of Monument and Highway 23. So that will be a change that they will be implementing through that northern corridor. It will limit parking along the sides of the road because it will use more lane space in that corridor in the first blocks in the north. But beyond that, new sidewalks, changes to the area. And driving the entire project in terms of us taking a lead in North Perth has been the opportunity when the MTO comes in to resurface and make changes is to install water main along the east side of the entire corridor that's colored. So it's that water main that BM Ross and Associates have been very involved with in terms of design and finding space and meeting regulatory requirements to put water main in that location. Now, there's no service along there now. It's a gap, and it's a gap that needs to be filled today or now prior to the ministry resurfacing, because it'll be many, many years or decades before they're back to do work. So the opportunity is nigh. Moving down from the blue section, we move into the core, which is really what the report is about. That's the red area, and that's the Earth to John corridor. In your report is a cross section that shows it changing from what is the traditional 2 lanes in the center, and then space for parking on each side, to widened lanes and a single parking lane on the west side. I did note in the report that the parking spaces that are available through the municipal parking lot, which could be augmented in the future, would remain for parking on the east side in that core area. The reason for these things happening are mainly technical, to try and fit utilities under the ground, to try and fit water main in the ground, provide boulevard space for safety for pedestrians, etc. It means that the road needs to tighten slightly in that area. So we discussed it with the MTO. They provided this concept and cross section. It's very conceptual, but what they've asked for is, because this is a significant change in their corridor that they want to coordinate with us, they're asking for our endorsement that this 2 driving lane, single parking lane concept be endorsed, at least at this point, by council. And then we can move forward to talking with them and saying, yes, go ahead and engage a consultant and continue with the design concept and the coordination of water main being installed probably next year by the municipality, and them following up with their construction following ours, or together in 2024. That's to be determined, but regardless, we can answer questions on the layout. It's really the lane configuration changes and the recommendation to endorse in the core those changes. There's other information in the report that I could answer questions on if you do have questions, and certainly Darren's available to talk about the technical nature of why these things are taking place because of the underground works as well.
Thanks, Mr. Couch, and welcome, Mr. Alexander. Thank you for attending today to help us out if we have questions. Let's turn to council questions or first comments on this report. We're not seeing anything at this point. Mr. Couch, you know, from the very beginning of my mayorship, I've been quite adamant about the importance of trying to get this all done in the Atwood Core in one season, one construction year, and not have it spill over to a second. Are we getting any traction on that message with the ministry, some cooperation from them in the aftermath of us having reconnected with them and the ministers getting involved directly?
Yes, we mentioned it again at our meeting that we had last month, that we're hoping that it's a single season, whether we can go in before and then later, or some sort of coordination of the work, but it was mentioned as a very specific need and a focal point for the work once we get to that point. So once they have a consultant, and Darren could help me with this, we'd attempt to work on the coordination of timing so that it's not as disruptive for the community and you're not digging twice in 2 separate years.
Yes, and that's the concern, right? The concern is that digging in 2 consecutive years is wasteful in terms of sort of digging up what you put back temporarily to patch to allow people to continue their lives and their ingress and egress through that space. So I'm hoping that you emphasize the mayor stamps his foot when he talks about this one. All right, Mr. Alexander, do you have any comments on that one? Maybe not. Is Mr. Alexander with us?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. I was hitting the wrong button. So thank you, Worship and Council. No, I don't have much to add to Lyndon's comments.
Okay, well, make sure you have good boots so that you can stop too. That would be appreciated. Any other questions or comments from Council at this hour on this matter? All right, then let's look at the resolution. Reads as follows: the Council of the Municipality of North Perth endorse the 3-lane concept of a parking lane on the west side and 2 traveling lanes through the core of Atwood from Arthur Street to John Street. Councillor Rothwell, will you serve as the mover here?
I certainly will, yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, will you be our seconder on this one? Councillor Seiler, I think you're muted, maybe.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate? Okay, I'm not seeing any indication of that either, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Mr. Alexander, thank you for joining us tonight. For item 5.72 on the recommendation further to a public tendering process executed by South Bruce as part of a municipality coalition involving North Perth, Council is invited to award the tender for chip and seal renovation of portions of line 89 to Walker Construction in the amount of $218,000. This right? I might not have the amount. Well, Mr. Couch, you can inform us about the amount. I'll invite Lyndon Couch, our Manager of Operations, to address this one. Mr. Couch, again, please.
Thanks again. To review this report, it is the surface treatment joint project that was similar to last year's project. And I'd like to lead in by saying it is only a treatment. I know when we had deliberations over the capital budget, I said again that we were looking at a surface treatment program, which is tar and chip as we know it. And we know that it's not an asphalt road. We know that it's a layer of tar with chips placed on top, and then the traffic travels on it after it's rolled. And there's a 4 to 6 week window when there's some of the chip that moves off the side of the road. The traffic itself blends that stone in with the tar and creates a protective surface on the road. It elongates its life. It buys a few years of life to that surface prior to heavy cracking, crack sealing, and pothole repair. And that's all it does. So it is considered a short-term solution to extend life of the road. It worked very well on 165 and 158. It's noisy as we put it down. And last year, I know I said, let's let it go through the winter. Often as you plow these roads, it literally takes the corners off the stone. They're quieter. And you can see today that the roads that were done last year are quieter, and they have been preserved to an extent. There's some reflective cracking that comes through, but it's better than leaving them the way they were. They need some help, and this gives them some provision for help. So other municipalities have recognized that along with us, and the tender has gone out You'll see in the financial implications, there was a $124,000 budget. We'll be paying less than that for this work. It involves our Road 89 from 165 to the County Road 178. And the limits of the construction are just on that road for this year, and that is the preservation program or the surface treatment program that we're recommending. The joint tender closed a month ago, and we need that endorsement to go through in order for the contractor to come in and conduct work. I do not have a schedule at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Couch. Comments, first questions or comments here. Councillor Andreessen, I think you're first.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Kaysenberg. Mr. Couch, I was just wondering if it's possible that we inform our residents on that road prior to that happening. I know last year when we did this, it caused a lot of confusion, and residents were a little upset because they didn't understand what the purpose of the treatment was or how the treatment would help the road. And just wondering if that might be part of the plan. Thank you.
Through you, Your Worship, I was talking to the CAO today about that as well. We'll provide notifications for everyone living along the section in advance. I was updating the website today, and I'll be forwarding that through, and it's going to give a broader explanation as to what we're doing for preservation and what the product is. And we hope to have those letters out weeks in advance, and then have those conversations with the residents along the roadway, prior to the construction itself. So thank you for the comment. Yes, indeed, we'll provide that kind of information and also answer any questions that they have in advance.
Thank you. I think that'll help with some confusion. That's great.
Anything further before we consider the resolution? Okay, I'm not seeing any indication of that. So let's turn to the resolution that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth accept South Bruce tender PW 2022 for Walker Construction Limited for the amount of $116,926.25, HST included, it says. Can I call on you, Councillor Andreessen, to be our mover for that one?
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstett, will you be our seconder here?
Yes, I would second that motion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Discussion or debate? I'm not seeing any, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Next up is item 5.7.3. Consultants pursuant to further evaluation of traffic flows and patterns are recommending a further experimental change in traffic permissions affecting a left turn movement from Wellington Street South onto Main Street East. The intent is to collect additional data relevant to our downtown core traffic experiments. Mr. Couch, you're the man on this one as well. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation really speaks to it. In looking at that corner, it does queue up with traffic when people attempt left turns. The periods when this is most problematic, and it was noted in our public meetings, was especially the peak hour in the morning, and then the peak hours in the afternoon. So that's 7 to 9 a.m., 4 to 6 p.m. So the test within this trial would be to restrict that movement. And I talked to the police sergeant as well about it, and he thought that was a good recommendation for the trial, and it was enforceable, and we'll put signage up appropriately if council endorses to go ahead and limit those left turn movements and provide basically better flow, faster flow and less queues at that intersection for those wanting to turn right, which is the majority of traffic at the corner. So the resolution is to implement that as soon as we get the signs in and council endorses it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Couch. Any questions or first comments on this matter? Okay, I'm not seeing any evidence of that, so let's have a look at the resolution now. Okay, Councillor Anstett.
Thanks, Mayor Kaysenberg, through you. Thanks, Lyndon, for the report. One question I did have, and I know that when we talked about the one-way street trial, it was in the recommendation, it had where the traffic was going to go. In this, I don't see that listed anywhere. Where is the suggestion that the traffic goes if they can't turn left onto Main Street from this corner?
Yes, thanks. Throughout this trial, and I won't speak for the consultant, but the detours weren't posted other than truck signs showing that the direction of Livingston is an appropriate method of heading westbound, but that traffic would find its own way, as they would on most days, depending on the needs as to where they're heading. So we don't list specific alternate routes. They can make that right. They can turn up by Giant Tiger and head north, and then continue up to Inkerman or Elizabeth through the back streets there, or they could head out to further out to the east. So that's the expectation. I would say that there aren't many cars turning left, only in the peak hour, and the vast majority are making that right turn movement. It's difficult actually to see to make a left. The consultant felt that this would create a safer environment for the majority of cars that are attempting that as well, because it's fairly blind with the way the parking is laid out there. So we're expecting they're going to find their way. They're going to head east one block, or make that right and then make a left in the next two streets.
Thank you, Councillor Anstett. Mr. Couch, anyone further? Okay, let's have the resolution then. Those that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the restriction of a left turn for northbound traffic from Wellington Avenue South onto Main Street East from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and that the traffic bylaw be amended accordingly. Can I call on Councillor Behrens to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I will make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Duncan, will you serve as the seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion or debate here? All right, we're not seeing any, so let's have that vote. Seeing one. It's 8-2. Here we go. Thank you. So that is carried. Thank you very much. Let's move on then to item 5.8, reports from the fire department. Item 5.8.1, reviews for council general experience. The waiving of tent permit fees. I think Mr. Podniewicz was supposed to join us this evening. Is he with us? Mr. Podniewicz, the floor is.
I am here, Mayor Todd, and welcome, or Mayor Todd, or Mayor Kiesenberg and members of council. I'd happy to be at council tonight and prepared a report. And this report was generated based on a resolution by council on April 11th meeting 2022, and the requested staff prepare a report in regards to waiving of specifically or waiving permit fees for events or previous events in North Perth. So I did put together a brief report, and just based on my experience of over 20 years with the municipality, I have witnessed groups, individuals and volunteers come before council and ask, request for waiving of fees for different items such as facility rentals, permit fees, and etc. But specifically, I've never experienced a request to waive tent permit fees ever come before council for consideration. I have spoken with individuals that requested the building department to waive the fees, and I've told them that we do not have the authority to waive fees. Only council has that authority. I've made some suggestions based on the trigger for tents and requiring permits is 646 square feet. I've made suggestions to some of these groups that have asked if they could reduce the size of the tents and put maybe more tents on site, and then the permit fees would not be applicable. Nobody's ever taken me up on that suggestion. And just a note here in the financial applications, the tent permit fees, they're just a flat fee of $110. And basically that just covers the cost of doing business here in the building department. That's offsets the administration inspection costs associated with these permits. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if council has any.
Thank you, Mr. Podnowitz. Council questions or first comments on this matter? Okay, I'm not seeing any at this point in time, so I have a resolution for consideration that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the permit waiving report for information. Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I will make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Johnston, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Podnowitz.
You're welcome.
Now that brings us to agenda item 6. For item 6.1, councillors, are there any reports you would like to ask of staff or of our committees? The usual approach to gaining the chair's attention for speaking is applicable. Anyone? Okay, we're not seeing anything there. For item 7, we have received an item of correspondence which invites our action. We don't have a resolution here for this should we move forward, but we can create one if we wish. For item 7.1, Council, we have received a request from the Listowel Agricultural Society to close various public roads on July 14th to support the Agricultural Fair Parade. Is there any reason for us not to consider a resolution on this matter at this time? Clerk Klein, you okay if we consider a resolution about this? The council receives the request from the Listowel Agricultural Society, and further that council closes the roads as requested, and further that we notify the appropriate authorities, kind of thing. Is that all right? The clerk is nodding her head. I like that when she nods her head. So, council, I think you get the general gist of that resolution. And I trust that Sarah's frantically typing in the background and making sense of it, which is wonderful. Councillor Richardson, will you serve as mover for that?
I will gladly move that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rothwell, will you be our seconder here?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Great, thank you. Let's just check in with the deputy clerk. You have something to show us and describe if we say let's have that vote?
Yep.
All right, then let's have that vote. I don't know why I raised my voice in that one. That's interesting. And Councillor Andreessen was abstaining, so that is carried. Thank you very much. Done. Happy Agriculture Society, happy community. All right, let's move to item 8 on our agenda, which allows council to consider bylaws. We have nothing additional for our consideration tonight. That brings us to item 9 on our agenda. Are there any councillors wishing leave to give notice of motion this evening? Okay, we're not seeing anything there. So let's move on to item 10 on our agenda. For item 10.1, are there any announcements that would be a benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? The usual approach to drawing my attention, Councillor Barnes, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. I just wonder if now would be a good time to mention that we live in an agricultural community and we have a number of farmers out in the field. Spring is late, and I know exactly what it's like to get behind a tractor pulling a convoy of implements, and I know it can be frustrating, but I'm just wondering if it's possible if we could do even maybe a public service announcement or put it on our Facebook or our Twitter to just be patient, take a few minutes, arrive alive type of idea concept. The farmers are doing the best that they can, and they would rather be in the fields than on the road. So I'm just wondering if perhaps for maybe the next 2 or 3 weeks, we could maybe just run something like that just to make sure that everyone you know, I know we often ask people to be kind and be patient. Now would be a really good time.
Thanks, Councillor Barons. CAO Snell, did you wish to give us any input on that one?
Certainly, we have done that message in the past, and certainly if it's not already planned, we can schedule that. That's a great idea.
Thank you. And if budget permits, perhaps there's some additional readers we can get through radio or newspaper. Thank you, Councillor Barons. Good idea. Councillor Rothwell, I think you're next.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. And I just want to inform council and our community that our fire department staff are busy educating our children. The fire educators were fire safety folks were talking about the importance of escape plans for students in kindergarten in particular at Eastdale School today. And I understand their information and their knowledge was well received and by those children. And I'm pleased to have the information relayed to me by our daughter, who's a teacher at Eastdale. So keep up the good work, staff, educating our young children and youth regarding the importance of fire safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. I trust that you and I had similar experiences as children. We really enjoyed when the fire department came into our school to talk to us. So I have fond memories of various mascots. I think there was a mascot involved too at one point, which was kind of exciting. I'm not sure that we have our fire team dressing up in mascot clothing at this point, but I think that would be something to commend if there's someone who's brave and wants to do it. Because I still remember that. All right. Any other councillors wishing to make an announcement or staff at this point that's benefited the community? All right, let's move forward then. Agenda item 11. We have one matter to be considered in a closed session of council. I'm going to read the resolution that will allow us to enter the closed session. The resolution as follows: that council proceed in camera at 7:57 p.m. to address a matter pertaining to the following: advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose regarding the Line 81 Bridge project. Councillor Seiler, will you serve as mover for this one?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, will you be our seconder here?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. That means at this time, we'll declare this public session in recess so that we are moving in camera. Staff who've been invited to remain should stay on the line. Any others who have not been given that explicit invitation should exit this conference call at this point in time. We will pick up our public live meeting after this closed session. Give us a few moments to adjust the audiovisual settings and council will proceed with due haste. Hang on. Okay, I am testing to see whether we are back into our public session meeting that is being broadcast to YouTube. Councillor Richardson, do you mind doing your usual magic there and checking in for us?
Just went live.
Okay, so you're seeing change, evidence of change, and my voice is being heard.
Audio as well. We're good to go.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councillor Richardson, for being our reliable tester of that. All right. To the general public, we're back in session in public meeting, and I can confirm that with regards to the item that prompted our closed session meeting, this council did have a discussion regarding Line 81 bridge project and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And some direction was given to staff with regards to that matter. Let's move forward then to our item 13, which is related to confirming our actions. Council, as mandated good practice, acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called the Confirmatory Bylaw. I have a draft of the same that reads as follows. The bylaw number 68-2022 being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed. Said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Richardson, can I call on you to be our mover on this one?
I'll move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Rothwell, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Let's have that vote. And that is carried 9-0, noting the abstention of Councillor Andreessen. And then that means that we're at that magic hour of adjournment. Councillors, we've completed the deliberation and taken action on the business that was placed before us tonight. I have a motion to adjourn, which reads as follows. The council meeting adjourns at 8:25 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, May 9th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Councillor Seiler, will you be our mover here?
Yes, I'll move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, will you be our seconder on this one?
Yes, I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's not debatable, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. This council will meet again for our next regular meeting, again using digital enabling technologies on Monday, May 9th, 2022. This meeting is adjourned. So thank you for a productive meeting and I wish you a great week.